Now we covered basics of TurboFrame. Now we know how we can inline part of the other views as part of the index. It works, but sometimes we don't want to show other views like in our case show as part of the index page. Usually in the index page we show subset of details about in our case article, or in other cases about other records, and when we click show link we expect to be redirected to another page where we see more details about this record, in our case about article. How we do that given what we discussed earlier? We already mentioned that when we click a link in code that's wrapped with the TurboFrame tag, the target view should have part of the code that's wrapped with TurboFrame tag. You saw that, otherwise we get content missing error. How do we do that? There's one way of doing it that is documented in this part of the Turbo documentation. In this case, we are interested in targeting out of frame. In our case, let's discuss it using our code. First, let me undo the recent changes that we did here. Let's not use DOM-ID to add prefixes to TurboFrame tags. If we want to break out of a TurboFrame tag and target another view that is not wrapped with TurboFrame tag, we can use this annotation. So in here, let us add the following: data frame top. So if we add it and if we refresh, when we click this link, as you see, we end up in a different page. We get redirected. And we have to show one more thing. As you see, in this case, it worked even though the show view file was still wrapped with TurboFrame tag. That works if you have this, but in our case, this TurboFrame is no longer necessary. We could keep it if in some cases we wanted show view to be shown as inlined, and in other cases we wanted to show it as separate page. But in this case, let's not do that. Let's not show on the show view page as inlined, because an article record may have many details that we want to show separately. So if we wanted to do that, we can remove it. I just want to show that in order for this annotation to work, you don't have to keep that annotation, or you do not have to wrap part of the code in TurboFrame tag for this to work. So let us go to the index page. This link doesn't work yet. We have to change a few things because we broke something by our last change. And so let's click on the show page. If we click on this, you see that it still works. This shows that we can use this kind of annotation to target other files where there's nothing that has been wrapped with TurboFrame tag. So by adding this annotation on any link, you can break out of the TurboFrame and target other views that do not have part of the code that's wrapped with TurboFrame tag. There's one more thing here. Now this link is broken. If we click on it, it doesn't take us back to the index page. To fix it, let us do one more thing. We can simply copy paste the same thing in there, and this should also work. Now if we click on it, it works, because it's also redirecting us back to the index page without trying to render something within the existing TurboFrame. And there's one more thing that we have to consider here. If we come back here and go to the show page, and if we click on the edit link, as you see, it works. But there's something that you have may noticed. This is something that comes not from the edit page, but from the show page. This is what's also being rendered, and it has this header that's not being rendered. The reason this happens is because currently the edit form is being rendered as part of the TurboFrame tag and not as a whole page tag. To avoid this kind of cases, we can move it let's say to show page, and add the same annotation that we added. And we now go back to index page, click on the show page and click on the edit. As you see, we see whole page editing article with no details and editing article header. So that's another benefit of using this kind of annotation. Sometimes we want to avoid those kind of unusual behavior. But now in the index page, we don't have edit button. So let's add it back. And in this case, we can do just add this without this, and it should still work. Now we have an edit button. As you see, we see it inlined without the editing header. Inlining works, but if we go to the show page and click on the edit page, we see a whole page rendering. We can totally use this, but as you see now, we had to add this same annotation to 3 links. Can we avoid that? There's another way of doing it that is shown in the documentation. If all or most of the links require using this kind of annotation, then instead of doing that, we can simply use this in the TurboFrame definition. Let's see that now. Instead of that, we can simply do top, and we can remove all of these. And now if we come back to our page and go to articles, index page, and if we click on the show page, as you see, it is being rendered as a whole page. Clicking on the back to article still works. This is broken and we will fix it in a minute. And editing click also takes us to a separate page. But now we broke this. If we click on this, it will also take us to the separate page. And how we can avoid this? In the index page, we still want to have it as inline form. Can we add this and still have the edit forms that's shown as in the index page behave the same way we had it to render in inline form? We can do that. It is documented in here. If we want to target a specific TurboFrame tag, then we can target that TurboFrame, specific TurboFrame. So in this case, we can do data article. We can do this, and then if we come back here, refresh, and if we click on the edit page, as you see, it works. So we, instead of having to use TurboFrame top in 3 different links, we just use this, and when we had an exception, we used targeting to a particular TurboFrame using this approach. Let's now consider targeting into a frame.